Bonjour, hello, welcome to MaxMountainWorld. I'm at work and today here's one for the Top Tips Corner. Check out my Top Tips Corner playlist. There's a lot of interesting stuff where if I do a little job or whatever and I think it might be useful for people to have the information, then I'll do a video on it. This is going to be a challenging one, and please forgive me if things don't go 100% to plan. What I'm doing here off season is round all of our apartments replacing these. Now these are the wastes for baths. This one kind of works, but when there's pressure of water on that, it just doesn't do anything. And the problem is these are originals, so they're 14, 15 years old. And the first time a client doesn't get a reaction he wants out of this, they'll just force it and break it. So I'm going to be replacing this. I'll show you what with. Just going into one I've just done, and we're replacing them with these. Nice looking overflow, and that's it. Dead easy. Hopefully not so breakable. I had a bit of a problem with these because I was doing this job, I started this job the last inter-season and negotiated problems with it. I'll explain why as I go. So I got hold of 70 of these. A couple of telltales in the packaging. It's quite good that it shows the picture and everything and whatever, how it works, and a little tool here which I'll come back to is useful to a point. 5 years guarantee, really. There is a tale, and this isn't anything nationalistic or anything, but the clue as to what the problem is right there. The size of this is not a standard size, so this is what gave me problems before. So I kind of work off a modified chariot thing that is loaded up with everything I need, so I'm using the same things every time for this little bit of silicone and a couple of mods for the units themselves, one screw, and if I can do this one-handed, one washer. So these can go in, and the trick to solution, here's a quick clue. And I'm almost ready to go at that. One thing, all the tools that I used on the last one, I just put them back in the same bag, and that way I don't have to go searching for them again. Everything is ready to rock. Kind of gets annoying when these shower screens just keep coming back, so I've got a little piece of wood that I can just wedge it open with, and it's out of my way, I can work away and stuff. Access hatch, yeah. MacGyver carries his knife, and this is where we're going to be working. First thing to do, get everything organised, get the tools where I'm going to be using them. These go in the bath. Finish with bath. And all the old stuff I'm just going to chuck away underneath. Should I need spare parts in the future, then I've got them. Open up the packaging. This thing is blunt-ish, so it's not going to cut the floor. So we're going to cut the plastic. And put all the rubbish away, so open everything up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the bits organised. These screws, throw them away. I'll replace it with one that is a decent quality. So that's all the bits. Let's get all the bits where I'm going to be working with them, i.e. that's going to be here, that's going to be here, all this stuff ready to go into the bath. Next, to strip out all the old stuff, which, as I say, just chuck it under the bath. These are only finger tight. Remove it from the back. Job's done. Make sure that the washer isn't stuck in place, because that can hinder the new installation. And then get the waste itself out. Just before I undo that foot, I'm going to undo the connection on the trap below. Easier to do it when it's in place than when it's kind of hanging about and dangling about. So finish with that tool, I'll put it back away in the bag again. And then I can pull this from the bottom and remove the washer as well. From the side, and there might be arms and hands and tools and things in the way, but just give it a good twist around, that pulls off. How this has happened, this is the second one that I've got like this, where they've actually got this around the pipe work. That's how it was done originally. Next, I'll just clean the extra dirt off of that hole. Don't need to do the bottom one, that's going to be covered and it's pretty flat anyway. So, as we go in here, these are steel baths, so they take quite a lot of punishment on the enamel. Using wire wool to clean does the job nicely. And cut a long story short, that's all done. Where I had the problem in the autumn was that is the standard size for a bath trap. These are the new ones, and you can see if I set it up the same way, it is about an inch smaller, a couple of centimetres smaller, which made a huge difference. Little top tip for positioning this: take the seal out temporarily, and I can use the trap to see whether I need to adjust the pipe or not. Set up my lights so I can see, so the camera can see, and as I say, like that, it just pushes over the pipe just to position it, and you can maybe see here it's not actually near where it's got to go, because that inch or so is the difference. Okay, so what am I going to do? Fire! Looking at that from the top, and it's just it just doesn't want to go all the way. So the problem I had before was there was a bit of stress left behind when I had fitted them, and again, camera angles are awkward here. So the thing I have to do is that the pipe connected to that, I've got to adjust that somehow. These things aren't the best quality anyway. I mean, they just come apart dead easy, so they cannot be installed with any kind of stress. If the pipe were stressing against it, it'll just pull apart, which happened a couple of times and wasn't very good. So this outlet pipe needs to go to the left. How do I do this? That way, and I'll do arrows if need be on the edit. So yeah, as I say, there's going to be hands, there's going to be arms, there's going to be heads, hair, all sorts flying about in front of the camera here. My apologies if it doesn't work right the first time, but what I need to do is just shift this over just a little bit. Now I have the flamethrower. Now this, if I zoom back out, now I have the flamethrower, the torch, so switch that on. We're fired up. Now if you tilt these, they go berserk, so you've got to adjust it for when it's tilted and get it right, and try not to bash this bit because that's the controller. That's just a nice level. This might look a bit botchy, but it works, and I've done this way loads of times before. So basically just the centre of the pipe, heat it up and heat it up all round, underneath, to the side. Doesn't matter if you burn it. I ran water down it before, so it's wet inside, it'll never go right through. And just heating it to the point where it just actually causes fire. But don't breathe the fumes in, these are highly toxic fumes. So just going round it and round it, takes a bit of patience in a minute or two. I can feel it moving now, getting a bit flexible. And I have two things I need to do with this when it's actually worked. And that's it, flexible now. So, put the blowtorch aside. I need this level and kinked in a little bit. So I just hold it like that for a couple of minutes. That's steam coming out, it's not smoke, from the water that I ran down the waste before I started. So that's kind of in place now. Now I've levelled it because that'll take the stress off the trap when it goes in. Still flexible enough to get it into the correct position as it cools and fixes itself in place. So you can see end on the slight kink that I've got on that, and also I've levelled it off. And the ultimate test is to take the same trap that I had before, the new one, slot it on, it's prepared, positioned, and look at that, right under the hole. Let's see that from above. Now that I've got that kink set up, lift it into position, no problem. So another problem I had with this was that, like so many things that I've found since I came here 8 years ago, is this has just not been finished off. So it's rough around the sides. When I push that trap on and make the connection, chances are that is going to rip the rubber seal that I took out for testing there. So I've got to get into doing some filing. And it's a two-handed job. So as we go in here, again, I'll be in front of lights and all sorts, but just work around and file a little chamfer into the end of the pipe. So the new fitting goes on nice and easy. Awkward in place like the burning was. I do a much tidier job when that's freestanding. Yeah, a little bit on top there. And it's ready to rock. So I'll just put that seal back in, ready to go. And what I'll do next is get some silicone, and I'll put a little bit on the end of the pipe, which I can spread round with finger. Put a little bit onto there to be spread round with finger. That to be spread round with finger. Sorry, camera wasn't right. Kind of working with 3 hands and 4 sets of eyes here, but the same again here. Because silicone, especially clear silicone, will actually work as a lubricant until it dries, and then it's an adhesive. Very, very handy. One of these things that you work in the trade and you wonder what you did before it existed. And the same for the outlet pipe. Just get that nicely done all around. I can then spread this around the end of the pipe, the silicone, and at the same time just double checking that I have done a good job of finishing taking the swarf off the end of the pipe. When you work with silicone like that, you end up with silicone on the finger. Don't wrap up a load like you do with sort of like that's toilet paper, like you do when you're using it as toilet paper. Fold it over halfway for each square. And another top tip is that gets your finger clear and you're not wasting paper. So these things aren't the best quality, but push it on square, a couple of slots, pull it back but not too heavy and twist it, and that's made the seal. Same at the trap side of things, just without damaging the seal, pull it back a bit, twist it, that's working fine. So that's been siliconed up, effectively lubed. The overflow pipe can go wherever it wants. I'm now actually lying down because I want to get my eyes behind this and push it straight on, not have it going squint or it's likely to rip the... There we go, just a slight twist and it's pushed on. Another problem I had with the original fixings was that little tool thing wasn't doing these up tight enough. So when people were stomping on this, occasionally they were stomping it off position. So this is a handy thing to get it started, but that's it. So I've got to accommodate that. Fibre washers that I bought for putting in there, and that just gives it that little bit extra flexibility. The fibre washer will actually expand a little when it gets wet, so very handy thing to be using. The only problem with that is that then means that the plug is raised up a bit and it won't seal properly. So I take the seal off and put it on the other way around, and that gives me another millimetre, which is also important, and have the actual seal for the bath plug set so that it accommodates the difference down there. Now from below, fit the washer. This is in the same position as I trial and errored it. I'm now pushing up and we can get the tool onto there just to get it started. I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but I really have to do this way around, right hand underneath, left hand on top, until that starts to tension up a bit. And as I say, that little stupid plastic tool is no use. So do it up so far, chuck that in the bottom with the rest of it, get the real tool out, and I can... Another top tip, don't do it up like that, because you cannot tell the tension you're using. Use the tool end on, and I can feel exactly how tight to do this so that it can't skip out of place if someone really stomps it. That hex tool finished with, chuck it in the bag. Now I'll fit this on, it just kind of clicks in, give it a good hammer, close it. Hold the top here to the overflow, and I can just fitted the washer onto the back of that. It doesn't need a washer on the front, that's not what makes the seal. So hit that, the screw that I replaced and the little fixing thingy, you'll see why that's there in a second. Do the worst part of it, I've really got a lot of pressure behind this to keep it in place until it starts tightening. Do the final tighten by hand, and that way you cannot overdo it. I've actually a little bit more, and then I can put the little cap on it. Job's a good one. So back under here, just making sure that the overflow pipe is sitting nice, going down and up and not sitting high or anything like that. And that's ready to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure that height and make a little support for there, and also behind where the pipe is, just to take the stress off these joints that I showed you earlier. So lying down behind the camera again, just to get my eyes level with this, and we're looking at, what for this, about 65 in the back. Two-handed job also lying down. Oops, messed up. and behind here I'm going to make that, it's measuring 80, I'm going to make it about 90 just so that it is giving a little bit of support. In fact 85 I think is good. Okay, so what to do with that is I need two pieces. This serves no purpose. It won't miss if I take a little bit off it. So I'll do my first cut. There's my 65 there. I think I mentioned 85, so I'll do the second cut up here. And I could cut these pieces out. As I say, it's not going to miss it. It's not going to weaken anything or danger anything. And that's under there. Perfect. Let's put it in the back. I can finish cutting it. So that's the first piece, the 65. Just support, a little wiggle, make sure it's all okay. The other piece at the back there, and that's absolutely sound. No tension or stress on any part of it. It's ready for testing. Alright, so that was it. Obviously it takes a bit longer when I'm playing about with cameras and whatnot, and I apologise for all the arms and stuff in front or whatever. Very difficult unless I had a second pair of hands, someone that could actually video it for me. Anyway, let's get on and throw some water at it. As you'll see, it is still dry, so I've not done this before for the camera. This is live test, i.e. if this leaks, it'll leak on cam. See what happens. Thanks for watching. Finally, take that off the screen, open the screen right round. It's not going to be in my way there for a couple of minutes, it's staying in place. And we'll get the shower head out. Put water on there. Good. Now, with that down, with all the bits hanging about, none of it's going away. So that is sealing. The millimetre adjustment I made. No leaks. Perfect. Draining away nicely, and yeah, dry as a bone. On the side, put the screen back, recover my torch, and job done. Put on stuff back onto the chariot, ready to go for the next time. Silicone, hang it up there. Tripod, obviously not needed for work, but all the original tools, I'll use them in the next one. All in the same place, I don't need to search for anything. That's all the rubbish in the rubbish bag, blowtorch and cordless drill, screwdriver, whatever you want to call it. Everything goes back exactly the same place, so I find it easy next time. And that's it, working chariot there. This thing is brilliant. I hardly ever need to go anywhere for spare parts. I have it all with me. If I need something, I'll go and get it from the workshop. I'll get two of them so that I'm covered for the next time.